So we spend a lot of time kind of existing just as we are. We did a lot of work on desensitizing. We happen to know a lot about the desensitization process from previous works in dealing with trauma, building internal safety, and actually working with dogs. So I owe a lot to dogs for that. But because I know how to do this, we spent a lot of time desensitizing ourselves to cameras, and it's very easy now to kind of speak to each other as if we're not being observed. And it's not like I'm not aware of it. Obviously it's going to change your presentation a little bit, but we're really quite good at centering ourselves back into our body, into our emotions, and managing the thoughts that come up so that I'm not behaving in a performative way. So we kind of just record conversations that we would naturally have, and we do this outside as well, but without the recording. We just kind of talk to each other, and people do respond, and people are going to respond. And there's something really important that I want every system that watches our channel to know, and that is that someone's response to your presentation is nothing to do with you. I know we've all heard that, and it might sound a bit cliche, but really, genuinely, someone's response to how you're presenting is not about you. Because when you study like what happens with internalized shame for long enough, you kind of, the CTAD clinic has a really good video on phobic avoidance that I would recommend as an addition to this. But what I have learned personally, studying things like shame and working out how internalized shame affects people, something that I see really often is that when we exist in a way that is authentic and unmasked, and not masking in a singlet normative demand, like when we don't try to pretend we're one person, when we just exist and we go with what our brain would naturally be doing without trying to make it fit a certain mold, people get really, really angry, and a lot of the time very upset, and people can get loud about that, and it sucks, and it shouldn't happen. You shouldn't have to experience it, and the behaviour is not okay, and it does come from like just, oh god, a lot of things in society being sort of like shame-based false narratives about the self being like what we're brought up in, and it's like a whole lot of things. But what's really important to understand is that it really is not a reflection on whether or not you're right or wrong, or whether you're doing anything wrong or anything. No matter what someone says, it's just that what they're seeing in us goes against some core belief they hold about themselves, and it's something they recognize and a lot of the time can't accept about themselves. A lot of the time this is stuff like, if I'm able to hold boundaries, people can get really angry about that because maybe they were taught they weren't allowed to hold boundaries. And then when they see me doing it, their subconscious sort of reacts because it's a trigger, and a part of them maybe is expecting punishment and going, I got punished for that, you're not allowed to do that, we can't do that. So then they react with what a lot of the time just perpetuating the same kind of narratives that they internalized, that they were told about why the behaviour isn't okay or why the presentation isn't okay. And you get this a lot, not just in the plural community. So it happens to people who are autistic, ADHD, neurodiverse, queer. I can't speak for other minorities or communities that I'm not a part of, but I would bet it happens in other ones as well. So just to include that openly. But something I've seen about all of the things that we are a part of, neurodiversity and queer spaces, usually are very accepting and very like, it's a beautiful place to be able to be authentic. But you always get some people that are parts of those communities but have learned that they have to behave in a way that they have been oppressed to believe they have to behave. And then when they see somebody else free to behave how they actually are and not sort of compressed into this mold, they can respond very angrily, and they can respond with a lot of like, that's not possible, basically, you can't do that, you're wrong for doing that. Or just outright denial, like you must be faking, you must be lying, because that's not possible, that's the main thing of what their brain is doing. It's just saying, this isn't possible. My experiences tell me this isn't possible. It's usually a really strongly held belief. But people that are doing this and choosing to perpetuate it outwards are usually not aware of or looking at or challenging their own thoughts or beliefs. This is why it comes out like that. Again, it's okay to understand through the lens and go, this is why the behaviour makes sense. Doesn't mean we have to be like, therefore the behaviour's okay. There's two separate things. You can still be like, I'm not going to allow that behaviour around me, and leave, block people, like whatever, healthy boundaries. But just to understand, so that it doesn't play through your head. If you see any comments like that, because bearing in mind I'm going to have these conversations and people might respond in ways that are completely unreasonable and completely wrong, and I just don't want anyone to read what's on our channel and think, oh, that applies to me, and then think what's wrong with me. Because the way we've been raised generally with trauma in childhood will be that the brain kind of protectively tries to go, oh, what's wrong with me, when someone says something that's confrontational, because that was protective. That was a safety measure in childhood. It's just that we have different resources now, and we have agency in adult bodies, and we can understand different lenses and different, more accurate narratives about ourselves and about other people, and about things like oppression within societies, especially when it's systemic. And this is usually a lot of the things that are causing comments like that to happen. It's coming from people that just are missing a lot, you know, and they just really don't see a lot of the time. And sometimes I have this background hope that I remind myself and ground myself in the reality that it is a very optimistic hope, and a lot of the time naive would not be an overstatement. So, you know, don't ever act with an expectation of somebody else's response, because that's so far outside my influence that I would stress myself out. But when I act in these things, I do think it would be really cool if something we say makes somebody able to see that the beliefs they hold are distorted, and that they can be free of that narrative too, instead of being angry about other people who are free. Who knows? It happens a lot with empowered plurality anyway, is what I'm saying. So if you see it happen, don't think that it means that you're doing anything wrong. Don't think that authentically existing as yourselves and presenting however you do as a system is anything wrong. It's just that people get angry when they see it and they don't understand it, and that is their problem, and it does not have to be ours.